I'm kind of like, did we miss it? Can it continue to drop more after you look like Detroit, Chicago, for instance? You bring that one up. It was 46.5. Now it's 40. So how much lower is that going to end up going? Or will that just continue? When you couple the weather with the quarterback situation, a pair of backups from when it was very first posted, that's going down 10 points. This is crazy. It's crazy.
Nonsense.
But yeah, no, it's a lot of the same stuff we're always looking for, and that key marker is 20-mile-per-hour winds. If it's 20 or higher, then you really got to watch out. The interesting part
Mhm.
of those 5 that we're talking about, New England, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, Houston, the Jets, Rams, Ravens, a couple of them have backup versus backup. And then the Jets, we don't know who the quarterback's going to end up being. So not only do we have some poor conditions where rain is expected, make things slick, but we have the high winds and we have terrible quarterback play. Like guys that might just barely be top 50 in the league at this. So I think that's all part of it. Just, it's been the season of the under, and part of it is because of all the quarterback injuries, backups playing more, and now we get backup quarterbacks in terrible conditions. So, yeah, I can't say that we've gone too far with any of this. It's going to get to a point where, okay, now do you have to go on the other side? And this year, are you willing to do that? That's tough.
I know. It's crazy that you're seeing like a total of 30 and a half, 32 and a half. It's just wild what's going on. But with bad weather and these backup quarterbacks, I don't know if I can bet over. I just don't think
I
I
know.
can.
It's the story that I think encapsulates 2023. These offenses stink, and they have
Yeah.
stunk for a long time, and they will continue to for the rest of the season. And certainly it's something I've talked about a lot in terms of, okay, it's bad quarterback play, bad offensive line play. Even the running games have been lackluster. So every single level that you can point to explains why these things are bad. And I think this is more of a, word to the wise than anything else. And Joe, I'd love your opinion on this. But
Mhm.
specifically when we're talking about the Jaguars Browns game, first off, if there is an update on this, Ian Rappaport tweeted out Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain, isn't ruled out for Sunday, but he'll need to get a lot better very quickly to somehow play. I don't see him playing. I think we're all in agreement that we will be seeing CJ Beathard out there. But I guess my question is this: when we're seeing a high probability of precipitation for the game, winds of 20 miles per hour, my buddy Kevin Roth is sort of forecasting that as of now. Every year, it seems like there's a bad weather game in Cleveland. And
Mhm.
this is just what they do. It's one of the reasons why they emphasize the running game in the offseason, because they know they will have at least 1 to 2 bad weather games at home where it will be their efficient running style, which is how they win those ball games. So when it comes to handicapping a game like this, I think we almost forget every single year that the Browns have to succumb to this because of where they're located. But in a situation like this, don't you like the Browns a little bit more, even though they're dogs, because at least you trust their rushing attack a little bit more than the Jaguars, especially if Jacksonville is going to Bethard?
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying there. But you're for me, it comes down to bad quarterback, and I've got to lay a field goal. Like that's
Mhm.
the other part, and I'm expecting a better effort out of the Jacksonville side. But no, I mean I want to see the injury report coming out of that Monday night game too, because let's not forget Kirk. They came out yesterday and said Christian Kirk's going to be out a while, so he's certainly not playing in this game. He's probably going to miss at least a few games. There's that angle too. Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between the Cincinnati defense that Beathard saw in uh limited time versus this Browns defense that he's going to see on the road where Cleveland plays great ball. So you're going to have to lean on the run game a little bit, and sure, yeah, you would say advantage Cleveland as far as that goes. My number one most bettable quarterback backup in week 14. This guy's getting about a touchdown, and I'm surprised. And Ed laid it out how the Packers have been one of the luckiest teams that we've seen. Tommy DeVito, who stole Tyrod's job. I can't believe I'm saying it. The most bettable backup quarterback, Tommy DeVito and the Giants getting 6.5. I see a 7 out there as well. Man, they are coming off a bye. They're coming off back-to-back wins. Spot-wise, I get why the line is what it is because the Packers just beat the Lions. They just beat Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. But really, now we've come so far that the Packers are laying a touchdown on the road. No. Give me Tommy DeVito and the Giants. Who's going to be the MVP?
I mean, I do feel as though there will be enough pressure, from I don't know how to say this, like more nerdy, advanced media, because that's not who has the votes. It's obviously the kind of old heads that probably do want to vote for Brock Purdy. But I think there will be enough of a drumbeat from the more advanced analysts that say like Brock Purdy is not driving this engine, and does not deserve to win an MVP award in the NFL. Granted, if you're the total EPA leader, you've won it like, I don't know, what is it, like 90% of the time in the last 15 years. And he's probably going to be the leader in total EPA generated on at least top 3 seed, maybe 1 seed in a conference. Here's the thing. If Dallas beats Philadelphia this weekend, Dak Prescott should be is number 1 in odds. I think he needs that statement win. They then would have the same record as Philly. Philly would have a tiebreaker and conference record. They'd still be the 1 seed. But if Dallas wins the NFC East and therefore is either the 1 or 2 seed, and Dak keeps playing like this, in my opinion, it should be Dak.
Alabama and Michigan. Wolverines are a 1-point favorite at the Rose Bowl with a total of 45.5.
Yeah, it makes me a little nervous. Ed, my numbers have Michigan minus about 4.5 in this game. And
really,
like, I know, yeah, so it surprises me even a little bit. Michigan's my number 1 power rated team. Alabama, from a power rating standpoint, like, I don't think this is breaking news. They're not as good as they have been in previous years. I have them power rated number 6 right now. So like, they're a good team, but also if the committee truly wanted the quote 4 best teams from power rating standpoints, there's a lot of models out there that don't have Alabama in the top 4. I'm not suggesting that some of the other teams above them were more deserving. They certainly weren't. Alabama was deserving. The question is, were they in the top 4 most deserving? Yeah, I've got Michigan minus 4.5. I do think that Michigan has a higher floor than Alabama. Like we've seen consistently, Michigan just doesn't really have bad performances. I mean, what are you going to point to? The Maryland game where they won by 7, maybe. Alabama's had some real stinkers. Now, if you're looking at ceilings, if both teams play their A-plus game, Alabama probably wins the game, if we're being honest. Alabama hasn't always played their A-plus game this year. Michigan's consistently played a much higher level. So we will see. I am interested to see how the, almost a month to prepare for this game, what that does for it. If this was a 1-week prep, I'd feel a little bit differently about it, I think. But both these teams have a full month. There's going to be no stone left unturned. And I do think Nick Saban, with a month to prepare, certainly is something that Michigan needs to be wary of here. But on paper, my models liked Michigan over Alabama really since like week 3 this year. I mean, basically after the UCF game, Alabama fell, and they haven't come back to crack back into that top 4 or 5 all year. So I'll be curious. Do I feel confident about taking Michigan and laying those points? No, but that's what the model says, and the model had a pretty darn good year.
I think college basketball props is probably the softest market out there. It's really interesting, especially in the days where you see games happen day after day, especially during feast week when you got to see like a team play on Tuesday, then they play on Wednesday, then they play on Thursday. I legitimately was very curious because I didn't feel like the lines had any idea what they were doing from the player prop perspective. One night you have a guy 7.5 points as his prop. The next night it's 13.5 and nothing has changed. And so that's like the variances that you can kind of attack from a market perspective. And, I think there's some really good websites out there that you can use to your advantage. I think Bart Torvik does a really good job. And for me, when I go on the prop market, I'm looking at, just the pure volume. I'm not trying to chase efficiency. I'm looking for volume. And so I look at like shooting splits, which teams allow the most points at the rim, which teams allow the fewest threes, which teams are really giving up a lot of efficiency at the rim when they do get there. And so today or tomorrow, a good example, Iowa State plays Iowa. Iowa State has elite rim defense. They allow the fewest shots at the rim. So for me, in my process, I go look at Iowa. I look at for the guys on their thing. I look for the usage rates, who has the low usage rates, and which guys are mostly shooting most of their shots around the rim. they're not going to get a lot of those against Iowa State. And I think it leads to some advantageous angles in the prop market. So I think college basketball props is a really interesting spot because there's great data out there that you can get for free if you're looking for it in the right places. But it's also tough because you can get limited very easily as well. And I think that's a real angle that you have to talk about. Like that's a legit part of the equation here, that like it's a little bit of a niche market. And so if you're coming in hot and you're riding on college basketball props, or you're locking in on A10 basketball, or you're locking in on Big Ten basketball, and you're really get a feel for these teams on a day in, day out basis, I think you kind of have to mix up your portfolio a little bit too to try to be able to place action at that book. So those are the things that I keep looking at from that perspective.